Everyone, this is Nathan Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 1021. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, on all the podcast platforms out there. So fans, please tune in. You can ask questions on our speaker app. Today, we're joined by a really special guest. His name is George Teague. He's a former Alabama NFL safety. He played for the Green Bay Packers, Atlanta Falcons, Dallas Cowboys, Miami Dolphins. He had a second stint with the Dallas Cowboys also. What a great career. Now he's doing big things off the field. He has a podcast out there with his son called Teague's Takes Podcast. Go check that out. And man, he got to play with Brett Favre, Troy Aikman, and Dan Marino in his career. So we'll get to all that, his journey, how he started to get into football. But George and George, thank you for joining the show today. It's truly an honor. And like I said, fans, please tune in, ask questions. Fan interaction is always awesome on the show. So George, how are you doing today?
Man, it's doing great. I appreciate you for giving me a little bit of time, come hang out with you, talk a little bit of football, talk about the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And whatever else we need to chat about. I'm game.
Yeah, so let's start with tell our fans, obviously you grew up in Michigan, and who did you look up to? When did you get interested in playing football, and who did you look up to?
Yeah, it was a little bit different because my dad was in the military, so I don't really call Michigan home. I was only there for like 6 months before we moved to Japan or something like that. So I really grew up playing a lot of different sports and not just football. And soccer was actually my first love, believe it or not. So I was looking up to Pele because I liked him. But, you know, as the more I got better at football, when I got into high school and I kind of knew I was going to be a defensive back, I started looking at guys like Ronnie Lott, guys that really could bring the heat, the wood, you know, the Atwaters of the world. I like big safeties for whatever reason at that time. And I wasn't even big. I just liked the way they were physical. So that's how I tried to mimic my game for just trying to be a physical football player.
Yeah, so speaking of, obviously you were safety throughout your career. So how did that become about? And did you get to play any other positions, or how did the safety position come about for you?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, like pee-wee stuff, you know, I wasn't always there. Most people try to figure out that they think they're going to be something when they're that young. Shoot, I played offensive line, wide receiver, tight end, you name it. I played it, had some ugly numbers on, but as I got older, I really wanted to be a running back. I thought I was going to try to be a running back, but didn't work out that way. Once I got in high school, the guys were bigger and stronger and just as fast anyway, so I needed to move over. So in high school, I actually played safety. I got recruited by Alabama as a corner, then ended up playing safety my junior year and both my senior year, corner and safety. Then I got drafted as a corner by the Green Bay Packers, but 4 games into my rookie year, I ended up starting as a free safety. Wow. So good knowledge of both positions.
Yeah, so by the way, I just want to say thank you to your father for his service. And it's really important where we have to always thank our military people for their service and serving the country. And what was the main thing that you learned from your father for him being a military person?
I think it's broad, but it's when I think of discipline,
yeah.
I'm not only just saying, hey, not making bad decisions, right? Sometimes people only put it with that. It's the discipline of being on time, being, you know, everything was just, you're supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to be there at a certain time. You're supposed to be there early. Everything's got to be laid out right. So that has really, really been instilled in me about structure and, you know, it's helped me be an athletic director, actually, for having to keep daily tasks and meeting those goals every single day.
Yeah, so now we are live with former Alabama NFL safety, George Teague. We already have a fan question for you. One of our fans just tuned in. They want to know, what was it like playing with Troy Aikman, Dan Marino, and Brett Favre in your career?
Man, it's unbelievable. You know, when you're playing in it, you're not always necessarily thinking about it, but now I'm reflecting on it and I'm going like, golly, man, I'm sitting there playing with Hall of Fame guys, and they were all different in their personalities and different things. Brett Favre was, I say wild child, for lack of better words, just gunslinger, loved to hang out, loved to do whatever. Dan Marino was a little bit more reserved, but kind of in the middle, and Troy was a whole lot more laid back, but they all had the same thing in common. That it was, perfection and doing it right and doing things. So, being able to see that, to play with them, be that kind of talent at quarterback it's kind of hard to explain, bro. Hard to explain.
Yeah, so tell our fans about what was it like being part of Alabama? And they obviously have a rich history throughout their college program, and they're still dominating as we speak with Nick Saban. But when you were playing there with Alabama, what was that like for you in the journey like at Alabama?
Yeah. So what attracted me to Alabama was really the traditions that they had. I think that's what attracted me to Green Bay. That's kind of what attracted me to Dallas. Just rich football tradition. At that time there wasn't a whole lot of coaches. Barry Bryant and the alumni and the fans, just kind of that. And Green Bay was kind of the same way. It's just small town football. All the fans are crazy about it. So going to Alabama really changed me or set me up to know what it was like to be rich in tradition. And that's why I'm such an avid Roll Tide fan.
Yeah. So speaking of Roll Tide, obviously the fans bring it every game at that stadium. And what was it like wearing the red uniform and playing in front of those fans every home game?
It's truly amazing because those are not hard fans. In Alabama, there's only two teams, essentially, no pro teams. You're either liking Auburn or you're liking Alabama.
Yeah.
Those love-hate deals. So going into those games, stadiums, there's always a lot of pressure. Still is a lot of pressure to try to win games while being a good, student athlete and things of that nature. But the noise that you had, the love that the people show for players, and particularly when you're loyal to them, it's crazy. It's sick, but it was cool to be able to walk to the game from the dorm, and just feel like you're at home. You're getting ready to go out there and perform. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So all right, we have another fan question. They want to know what was it like playing underneath the Friday night lights in high school football?
Oh yeah, Friday night lights is just as impactful. I played at a school called Jefferson Davis High School in Montgomery, Alabama, and those Friday night games, it was unbelievable. To have thousands of people in there just to hear the band and watching people run the ball around and things. And that's something I'll never take back because that still started in my mindset of how to win, how to persevere, how to things. Because there's a lot of struggles that I had even in high school. It was my first time living off base. First time I had really seen racism, and all kind of things. So there's a good growing up process, and Friday night lights really helped me get through a lot of things.
Yeah. So tell our fans about some of your best moments at Alabama. And obviously, you had a great college career in Alabama. So tell us about some of your best moments.
I think some of the games that I really enjoyed at Alabama in particular was a lot of people don't talk about it, but I do because I had a game where I had 3 interceptions. A couple of them, one of them to win the game. It was against Mississippi State. There's a big controversy around that game, but it was one of my favorite ones. I think it really started to elevate me and get me on the track to be an NFL draft pick. Of course, playing in the national championship game, stripping the ball from Lamar Thomas, that was just, obviously still talked about today. And it's pretty cool to have something like that where you can remember something like that. But probably the other one in that game that I feel very highly about is the interception for a touchdown in the national championship game. That's a dream come true for a defensive back. You know, one game on, millions of people watching, Heisman Trophy winner on the other side, and they intercept him and take it back for a touchdown. So that's pretty cool in college.
Yes.
You know, then pros, I got, a couple. I still own the record for 101-yard interception return in a playoff game. Someone just tied it with me from Buffalo a couple years ago. But that was a big one. Green Bay then, and then a couple Dallas games, of course, hitting Terrell Owens. And then, when we played the Vikings in the playoffs, it was in 96. I did the same kind of thing. I had 3 turnovers that helped us win the game.
Well, yeah, so speaking of that 1992 national champion, obviously you won that year. What was that like, the moment when you guys won, and especially winning with Alabama? Like I said, historic franchise, rich history. What was that like that year, 1992, and winning that championship?
Well, that game and that year probably meant more. Not the year. We knew we were a good football team. We knew we were going to win some games, but no one expected us to beat the Miami Hurricanes in that championship game. So to win that, it was like, I won't say a relief. It was just kind of like the icing on the cake that we knew, as good as we knew we were, that kind of solidified us in history. And I'll tell you what, after the game, it was so hot. And I mean, we were indoors, but getting in the locker room, I almost passed out after the game just because of, the amount of joy and happiness and people jumping all on each other. And it was a really, really good feeling to get Alabama back on track and win a national championship that year.
Well, yeah. So tell our fans about the NFL draft. Obviously, you got picked in 1993, round 1, pick 29 by the Green Bay Packers, another great franchise in the NFL, and you got to play with talented players. But what was it like working hard every day throughout your high school career, and obviously when you were younger too, and getting to that moment and realizing that you finally made your dream and making your family proud? So take us to that moment when you got drafted.
Yeah, getting drafted, man, is like, it's just surreal. Can't ever compare anything like getting married or having a baby or something, but it's just, once you get to that point and you really understand that, hey, you're now like an elite group. There's 1,500 people, in the world that are playing in the National Football League. So to get drafted in the first round, it was like, you kind of just lost for words and understand that, man, it took a lot of work and patience as a person to do it, but also took a lot of help, because without my mom and my dad or my brothers and other people to kind of help me along the way, it really becomes a family deal for me. It was just different because then even that, then you got the weight on your shoulders to try to be successful once you get there. There's a lot of guys very long, right? That's what average is 3 years. So, for me to get 9 years in, it felt like pretty good success.
And like I say, you had a heck of a career. One of the best, one of the greatest safeties to play too. And we have another fan question. They want to know if Edrin James was on that Miami team that year.
He wasn't the starter, so they had. Trying to think what their running back name was. They were loaded though. That's when they had Warren Sapp. The Rock was on the team.
Wow. Okay.
The wide receivers all went to pros: Lamar Thomas, Horace Copeland. The linebacker, Barlow.
Oh, Barlow.
I believe, yeah, they were. Ryan McNeil was on that team. It was a star-studded deal. So Edrin, he wasn't the starting guy because he's younger than I am. But they had another pretty good running back that was really good. But it didn't matter though, because we shut them down. They only had one touchdown, and the only reason they got it was off of a punt return. Kevin Williams, who ended up playing for the Dallas Cowboys, as well.
Yeah. So speaking of when you get into Green Bay, Obviously, you have a talented team, especially on the offensive side and defensive side. You got to play with Hall of Famer Leroy Butler. So what was that like for you, learning from him, playing with him, and also, would you say that playing against Brett Favre during practices made you become a better safety?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, Leroy is a tremendous talent. Obviously, getting to the Hall of Fame this year, and that's probably going to be something that I played with. I'm going to expect Darren Woodson to get in at some point in time.
Yeah.
I played with a couple Hall of Fame safeties, but you know, he was. You know, this is the guy that Leroy Butler is the guy that started the Lambeau Leap and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty, cool to be buddies with him and playing right next to him. I mean, where we were just a tandem. You know, he had his piece and I was, kind of the backup piece to help us be successful. That I'm really happy for him to see that he's, getting into the Hall of Fame because he was definitely something special.
Yeah, and we have another fan question. Someone wants to know, what was it like for you guys, especially for the defense, to have a quarterback like Brett Favre that goes out there every game and puts up points for you guys? Obviously, that's Sterling Sharp, Mark Clayton, and a heck of an offense. And how easy was it for you guys obviously every game is hard, but how easy was it to have a quarterback like that on your team?
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. I forgot to answer that. Yeah, having when you now, of course, all the athletes are elite at that level. When you have guys, Brett Favre, Troy Aikman, Dan Marino, and others that practice going, it just makes you better on the defensive side because you can't. I mean, it just sets you up because the structure of practices in the pros are so everything is situational, game-like. So you know what it's going to be like in 2 minutes. If you have guys like this that are preparing you and that are playing full speed and that are trying to make the thing happen, it makes it easier in the game because, I mean, me playing against some other quarterback, I'm saying any bad names, but, that aren't as good as Brett Favre, it makes the game slow down for you, if I can put it that way, that, I'm way ahead of the throw on this guy. I can make the play. So a lot of my success did come because of the guys that I played with who are my quarterbacks.
Yeah. So speaking of obviously in Green Bay, you got to play underneath Coach Mike Holmgren. What was that like? What did you learn from him?
Yeah, well, Mike was a mastermind of getting staff together. He really kind of brought some evolution to the game, I guess. I mean, when you got a staff with him of Mariucci and Gruden, he had Ray Rose. I mean, he had everybody who ended up being head coaches of other teams on his staff there. And he brought that West Coast style in, and we got effective and we got better on defense, and we just got really, really good really quick. So, what he brought to the table was just the knowledge of all the small intricacies of how to pick a defense apart, which in turn is what you were talking about just a minute ago, help us be better on defense because we had to be really good to try to stop Sterling Sharp and Mark Chimera and Edgar Bennett and, I mean, all the guys that we had. So it was a good place to go to start off my career. That's for sure.
Hey, here's an interesting question from one of our fans. They want to know, how many Lambeau leaps did you take throughout your career? For when you got interception.
No, actually, I never jumped into the stands. I never did. It wasn't kind of my deal. I knew it was kind of a tradition and whatnot, but I was so in tune to the community and the fans and the people that seemed like I was always out with them anyway. I was one of the few players that stayed in Green Bay all year round, knowing how cold it is. Most guys didn't stay up there all year. So whenever I made a play, it was more just having the fun, enjoying the moment, getting back on the bench and trying to go do it again. Because I never wanted to take anything for granted. It's me personally. I'm different from some of the other cats. And Not saying I'm any better or nothing like that. I was always trying to fight to make sure that I was going to play for more than 3 years. And if I can pass 5, if I can get past 7, how do I get to 10? Right. I always had those things on my mind. So it was strictly business for me. You entertained, you played the game, you had fun, but I had a baby, I had a wife, and it was work. So I just went in, brought my lunch pail, went to go play football.
Yeah. So speaking of, and also you got to play, in my opinion, play with one of the best defensive ends, in my opinion, to play, Reggie, the late Reggie White. What was that like for you playing with him? What did he mean to the NFL and the city of Green Bay? And obviously he brought it to the field. And everybody has that debate of Lawrence Taylor, obviously, and then Reggie White. But in my opinion, I would put him. It's a tough thing, tough debate. But Reggie White, in my opinion, one of the best defensive ends.
Oh yeah, definitely. And they're different players, LT and him. They're not the same type of guy. I mean, Reggie could play inside and outside. He was defense end, but he was so big.
Yeah.
Or realize how big he was. And that one-handed hip toss he always had, he just set people up and just toss you out of the way with one arm. Was amazing. But, with him being a minister as well, it brought a different dynamic to the locker room. He tried to keep guys humble and down. I can remember him come to the house and just mentoring me, talking to me and my wife about, money and how do you get involved and how do you invest. So it just wasn't all football. It was like, hey, man, you got to set yourself up here. You got an opportunity. Here's some people you need to meet and talk to, set your family up. So I am very grateful for the friendship that I had with Reggie White.
And so tell our fans, I'm just curious, obviously in 1996, in the same year, you went to the Falcons and Cowboys. In 1997, you went to the Dolphins. But talk about the 1996 year, because was it tough for you and your family? You moved from 2 teams in the same year. How tough was that for you?
Yeah, no, it's very hard. That's part of the NFL that most people don't understand. It is still a business, and you got things happening. So when I got traded from Green Bay, I don't even count Atlanta because I got traded to Atlanta, but I got cut from them 3 weeks later. So I was living in Green Bay, moved to Atlanta, being naive, figured I was going to be there all year, got cut from them, and then ended up signing with Dallas Cowboys. So I moved to Dallas.
Yeah.
And then, half a year later, I signed with the Miami Dolphins. So essentially, I was living in 4 places at one time. Not ideal, particularly when you're, that's that bubble where I was just mentioning to you earlier that trying to get to stay in the league, because you can run into hurdles. And for whatever reason, I ran into that problem of fighting for my job every single week. So there was about a 4-year span. 1, 3, 3 was good. 4, 5, 6, 7, kind of like, all right, it's a battle. 8, 9 were fine. I was really, really good. And probably could have got to 10, but at that time I was really kind of tired, and I was able to walk out on my own at that point. Yeah. Probably could have maybe 1 more year, maybe 2. But at that point I was ready to just go ahead and retire and start my next journey.
Come on, George, maybe you could have helped us win another Super Bowl.
Well, it's been a long time, man. The Cowboys got to get back, man. I don't know what's going on, boys, but man, we got to figure it out. We can't get knocked out in the first round this year because it'd be tough.
Yeah, so I'm just curious. We had last year we had Andre Rison on our show. Did you get to play with him in Atlanta or Green Bay?
Yeah, I actually played against him.
Okay.
So man, that dude was good, man.
Yeah.
They were different kind of cats, man. Especially the way they were throwing the ball around and had things rocking and rolling out there. And so my little bit of time, again, like I said, being in Atlanta, I put that out there as trivia question for most time because most people don't even know I was there because I was only there for 3 weeks. Didn't play in any regular season games. It was only training camp. So I didn't bond very much with anybody on the team because it was a very awkward moment, business moment where, that's when I kind of woke up to, all right, this is what the NFL can be about from a business standpoint.
All right, we have another fan question. One of our fans want to know, what did Terrell Owens say after that hit you made on him?
Terrell Owens ain't said anything to me, boss. He's, that was, it's kind of hard to believe that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's, just certain things that happen in the game that lead to certain stuff. And that, he and I have been talking trash the whole game. And so it escalated to, to that. But afterwards, he didn't have any words for me. I got kicked out. He got kicked out. He did come to the Cowboys later. We didn't speak when he was here at the Cowboys. And I hadn't spoke to him yet. Still. There have been no words between me and Terrell Owens.
Wow, that's crazy. So for you now, what was your time like in Miami? Obviously, nice weather, amazing stadium, and I would say Miami Dolphins is another great franchise in the NFL. Obviously, you played with Dan Marino, OJ McDuffie, a great receiver, Richmond Webb, who we had on our show. You played with him, and what was it like? Obviously, you played with Zach Thomas too. So, what was it like being in Miami?
Yeah, no, it was great down there. Living in a fast life, being on I-95.
Yeah.
Doing that, it was great just to be down there. I kind of went down there just chasing Jimmy Johnson and his glory. Being there, I figured that could be a way for us to help us kind of, win, perhaps. But our styles didn't really mesh, so I had no issues with Miami or the Dolphins. Me and Jimmy, actually, his coaching style and my personality type didn't necessarily fit. And that was really the reason why for my departure out of there. He was a big psychologist, mental kind of things, and a lot of that I'm self-motivated. I didn't need a lot of the stuff that he was trying to give me to help motivate me. And so we kind of bumped heads a little bit. And after a year, we decided to go ahead and part ways, and that's how I ended up back at the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow, that's interesting. That's an interesting story. I didn't know about that. So speaking of, tell our fans, what was it like once you got to go back to Dallas, and take us to that moment when you had the opportunity to be a free agent and pick your own team, and once Dallas was interested in you, how excited were you?
I was really excited because, when my first time in Dallas, it was just a 1-year stint, and I was able to be around that culture, that staff, and really the players to see how they worked and their skill set. So I knew exactly that's the kind of guys that I wanted to be around as far as technique and things. So they kind of elevated my game, even after I got to the league. Kevin Smith and those guys really took me to another level as a defensive back. So when I had the opportunity to go back, they were still having safety issues after that, and needed some depth there. And they said, hey, I could come in and compete. I didn't shy away from it at all. I knew who Jerry Jones was. I don't have any issue with Jerry Jones. Regardless of what people think or say about him, I don't have and so I wanted to go back to give it a chance again. And so I think it was a good decision because I ended up, remaining here 4 more years after I got here.
Yeah, so speaking of Kevin Smith, your former teammate, I actually listened to your episode, I think it was last week. Yeah, it was right after your show with our friends, with your son, and that was an amazing episode right there. So I just want to say great job on that with your former teammate and your son. So good job on that one.
Thank you, man. Very much.
Yeah, so we have another fan question. One of our fans wanted to know, what was your pregame routine as a player before a big game?
Well, that's kind of in depth a little bit because it starts super early in the morning and goes all the way up into the game. But I was pretty what do you what's the word you would use? The routine was I always had to get up at the right time, same time. It had to start the night before. Sorry, it started the night before what you ate before you went to bed, dinner, and then whatever snack I would have, which I always had the same, and then the morning breakfast. So I always like eating steak,
Mm-hmm.
eggs in the morning, because you had to eat 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours before the game.
Mm.
And I knew I was going to get hungry about halftime. So if you think about that, if it's a noon game, you're eating at 7. By 1:30, while everyone's eating chips, nachos, and drinking beer and all that, I'm like starving, right? Because you just exerted energy for. So I needed something a little bit heavier. That was part of it. I needed to have the same Hershey's candy bar. Halftime, Hershey's with almonds. As a matter of fact, that was going to be my recharge, my sugar intake.
Wow.
But there's just so many other pieces. Hot tub, cold tub. When do you do that? When do you shower in the morning? I mean, a lot of us had a lot of different things like that. And I was pretty stickler about exactly what I did every single game, depending on game, because it changed if it was a 12 o'clock game, a 3 o'clock game, or a 7 o'clock game.
Wow. Yeah. So when you got back to Dallas, obviously Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Darryl Johnson, Michael Irvin, Dion, primetime Deion Sanders, Omar Stoutmeyer, Darren Woodson. Obviously, you mentioned Kevin Smith too, and Greg Ellis, and I can go down the list. And the late Larry Allen you got to play with, and what was that like for you? Obviously, going back to Dallas and eventually spending a long time there to end your career and playing with players I just mentioned.
I mean, it's pretty cool, man. Anytime you're around those dudes, I mean, I don't know how many Hall of Famers are going to come off of that squad, and it's just, you got something special when you're around guys like that. You mentioned Charles Haley and, others.
Charles Haley, yeah.
There's so many guys, and they were all so different.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that was, they all had the same goal, and that was to be the best doggone football team that we could be and hold each other accountable with that. So it didn't really matter. You got to better come to workout. You got to do stuff. You got to give it didn't take a whole lot of coaching to necessarily try to motivate folks, because you had to play for your teammates. And that was the cool part, because, when I went into the weight room to watch Larry Allen, you've probably seen the video. If you haven't, you need to find it on YouTube or wherever it is, where he benched 700 pounds, for a rep. And I'm sitting in there and I'm just like, this is crazy, to do that. He probably could have did 2 reps or something, and it's just, those moments that you have with your teammates, that's not even hitting someone or, playing the game. That's just something, a joyous moment. We're all in the weight room, and we decided to do that, watching guys, Joey Galloway, single leg squat, 330 pounds. It's you get to see how these freak of natures, these guys have, and you wonder, why is he so fast? Why is he so big? Why is he so strong? How does he become all pro? Well, I got to see that firsthand, going, geez, I got to elevate my game, because these dudes can play ball. Those are some good players, man. A lot of them.
One of our fans want to know, what does it mean to you to wear a star on your helmet?
Oh yeah, no, it's prideful. Those are the things, and I hate guys don't really ride for the brand as much as I feel like we did back in the day, because to be able to put that star on your helmet, you didn't even get it on your helmet until you earned it, essentially. I think they try to do it a little bit right now. But now people get mad because they feel like they're being excluded if they don't have the star and all that kind of stuff. Like, no, man, this means something. It meant something to me with any team, but particularly when it came here, knowing the weight of the shoulders of being on America's team and wearing that star, it meant a lot, and it had a lot to do with those guys that loved it, the owner, who made sure we knew exactly what it meant to have that and have that opportunity. So even when I'm wearing my stuff now, it means the world to me to have it on.
Yeah, and speaking of one of the games you played in your Cowboys career was on. You got to hold the flag, 9/11. So what would take us back to that game, and what did that mean to you, especially your father being a military person?
Yeah, no, that was unfortunate. All the things that happened. I can remember being actually going, or I can actually remember seeing it on TV when it actually happened live. I was up getting ready to go to work. And was watching the news and happened to see the planes crash into it. So it was kind of somber moment, but had to go in for practice. And it became closer to me because there were a lot of players on the team who also affected by it. They were there. Hey, my folks are in New York. My cousin, my mom, or whatever, and so we were all kind of in a tizzy. We all ended up leaving, because we didn't know what was going on, and we had to come back. And then we didn't even know if we were going to play or not, and we didn't that upcoming weekend because of all the alert. Is the plane going to crash into the stadium? Blah, 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 right? And so 2 weeks out, when we decided to go ahead and try to get back into it, that was a very touching moment for me to be able to grab an American flag and take it out and just show that, at least through sport, we can all unite, regardless of how ugly it can get at time to time. We can unite through sport. We got 100,000 people in the stadium, and you got everybody else watching it on TV, and there's just a sense of pride that came with it. And I was even closer to it because my dad was active in the military. My brother was active in the military. So I just wanted to be a part of that time.
Thank you to your brother also for his service. So now tell our fans, how fun was it working with Jerry Jones throughout your Cowboys career? And obviously, I love Jerry Jones. I'm like, as a huge Cowboy fan, I'm happy that he's our owner because even though he gets criticized for a lot of things he did in his career, but like making moves or whatever, he still has a big mark, a big impact on his team, and he's still doing great things for us. So what was it like working with him?
He's straight up dude, man. He's no holds barred, and which I kind of liked, and it's that same sense of the military stuff, just being disciplined, and that's how he was. He didn't try to sugarcoat anything. He told you exactly what his mindset was. He told you if you were a bad player, he told you if you were a good player, and he told you if you were a great player, and they all meant something different to him. But I had a lot of respect about that and he also talked about real life stories on how, he didn't always have the money that he had. He didn't always own the Dallas Cowboys, that it took work to build this franchise. And I just love hearing those type of things as a businessman, and him just saying, hey, my back was against the wall at one point in time. And I had to get out of it. And it took a team of folks to help me get out of it. So that was an inspiration to me, because as much as he is about business too, I can still walk up to him now and he can kid and joke and talk about cologne and, other stuff that don't mean anything about anything, just because he's personable like that. So I'm very thankful for what his family has done, continues to do for me and my family as well.
So we have another fan question. So someone wants to know, would you consider coaching in the NFL down the line?
It's I've done a few interns. Actually, I could have started coaching a long time ago, maybe 2003, right after I retired. I did an internship with the Browns, Dave Campo.
Okay.
There. So it was Bush Davis was the coach there, and had an opportunity, but I really wasn't. I knew I wasn't ready for that level. Me personally, I was still kind of in player mode and not mode. So I don't felt like I was ready to make the right transition. That's how I ended up start coaching in high school. Okay. Then I've kind of dabbled a little bit to see, if I'd want to go down that avenue, but shoot, man, I'm 50 years old now. Those coaches are 25, 26. Head coaches are 30. So I don't
Hey,
know if
we would love to have you part of the Cowboys coaching staff at some point down the line.
yes, sir. Sure. Show them a few things.
With either Mike McCarthy, hopefully with Mike McCarthy or some other coach, we don't know.
Right.
But yeah, so now what's it like obviously coaching high school kids and teaching these young kids the game of football and making them better, and what's it like doing that now and sharing your experiences and your stories that when you played to them?
Yeah. It's just different. You have to kind of adjust with the times as football changes, but that's so as the sporting world, the landscape's changing, NILs, transfer rules, portals, and all this kind of stuff. It makes it very hard to keep guys or ladies focused sometimes on the brand or the school. So all the principles have to stay the same as far as how you work, teaching, discipline, hard work, dedication, loyalty. But just know it comes in a different way. But social media's happening, the way you have to interact and connect with our youth is different than how we would have done it, 20 years ago. So it's a continuum of trying to learn and understand that their world is a lot different than how mine was. And so as they're looking to go to college, get recruited, get money for the name, image, and likeness, it's a totally different world that we got to understand and try to be supportive of.
We'll take one more fan question, and they wanted to know what was Chan Gailey like as head coach?
Oh man, Chan Gailey, I would say he probably didn't last in the Cowboys just because he might have been too nice. I mean, great brain, great offensive brain, and all that kind of stuff, right? But the disciplinarian side wasn't really there. And the type of players that we had, you got to have someone strong enough to kind of get guys in order, right? I mean, yeah, they're grown, and you hope for them to be disciplined, but whatever. These guys are hard to deal with, and Chan was probably more forgiving than he probably should have been, which leads to undisciplined play and the results. Ultimately that's probably why him and Jerry had to separate, because he needs some strength. Well, you see, and then he started hiring different people, the Parcells of the world and others who were motivating and mentoring guys, keeping them in line, because Jerry will take a risk on someone that maybe is troubled. Got to have someone who can deal with that as well.
Yeah. So speaking of tell our fans, and what advice? Obviously, now you coach young kids, but what advice would you give to other kids that are trying to reach their goals?
Don't let someone steal your dream. Some feel it's too easy for a tweet, Instagram post, a TikTok, someone to talk about you and get you mad and get you off focus. Other than going to workouts and passing in school and doing your work, and you get caught up in all the wrong stuff, and it's so easy to get distracted that you won't make it. And these college coaches, man, they watch everything too. So they got full departments. If there's a kid listening, they got full marketing departments. So all they're doing is watching your Twitter, your Instagram, your TikTok, your whatever, and they're waiting for you to make a mistake so they can say, we're not going to offer him a scholarship or her. So clean that up. Don't get no spats. Don't be taking no funny racial kind of things that are happening out there, because it's gonna cost you a career. And then you're going to be wondering what happened. Then you're going to be blaming everything else. It's politics. They didn't like me. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's probably something that you probably did. So you got to set yourself apart. And part of that is just by making the right choice or right decision to not get caught up, and don't let anybody knock you off that path of doing the right thing so you can make it.
Yeah. So before we get to the last two things, tell our fans, what's it like seeing your former teammate Deion Sanders coaching at HBCU school now at Jackson State University, having high success, bringing in high level talent. He brought in the #1 talent this year, and looking forward to seeing what he does this year with Jackson State. So what's it like seeing him, and Has he ever contacted you before about joining his staff?
Oh yeah, he's gonna he's killing it, and he's gonna kill it this year. I'm very, very happy for him. You know, he was coaching high school ball here before. I've done some coaching against him on the high school level here in Texas when his boys were over at Trinity Christian Cedar Hill. So I always knew that he had what it took to be a great coach like that, because he's a motivator. He can inspire people, and obviously he knows a lot about football. So it's pretty cool to see him go there, bring some light to SWAC and minority schools, and really help build that culture a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how long he stays, if he rides it out something bigger with that. So a lot of the guys he has on staff are guys that I've actually coached with: Kevin Mathis, Andre Hart, and others that I actually had coaching with me in high school world. So there's a tie to that when he was doing the Truth Football. But I wasn't really on his – I mean, he was a defensive back, and Kevin Mathis, who was a defensive back coach, who he's very, very close with, who played with us in Dallas as well. They had always kind of worked together with that. So my talks with Dion was not really about that. It was really been, hey, send me the guys that can come down here and play and who are top notch. The same guys you go send to Alabama, you need to send here. It's pretty cool to watch him do what he's doing and bring the light to that program. So
what are your thoughts on Trayvon Diggs coming from Alabama, just like you, and playing for the same team right now? Yeah, no, dude, you get 10, 11 picks in a year, young. It's unbelievable. And I got to see a lot of those plays that he made going to the Cowboy games here at home. And he's just a superb talent. You can see the focus in his eyes and his mind. He gets locked in and doesn't like to get beat. Now, he gives up some stuff. I know Pro Football Focus and all them kind of, give you all the stats on how many yards you get up versus whatever. I've never seen an incentive package that said if you give up too many yards, you're going to give up, some cash. There's really more how many interceptions you're going to get, how many fumbles you cause, and extra money. So I think he's doing his job. And it's pretty cool to watch Alabama just kind of take over by storm all across the league. But when you got a guy like that comes in, you pair him with Michael Parsons. Yes. You keep that thing up front, the four linemen getting after it. I mean, good league. Our defense should be stacked again for sure this year. And I think Trayvon's still going to have a big impact, but I think people are going to try to find a way to exploit him if they can, with double moves. But maybe he's been working on it, all the offseason. I'm not sure, because a good athlete will know what he needs to work on as well. Yeah, Jerry Jones made the right choice by getting Dan Quinn in here, because he changed the whole attitude, and he brings more intensity to the team. And I'm happy that we have Dan Quinn. I think our defense will be much better this year too. But the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. Now he's coaching at Grambling State University, another HBCU school, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. So we'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. We'll support however we can. Yeah, thank you. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now? I think anybody that's out there on the front lines, first responders, dealing with individuals, whether it's in the country, out of the country, or whatever it is, we're all thankful for you. Most of the time, you may hear negative things or cry or something or whatever else, because people are scared and all that kind of stuff. But it's not because they don't love you. It's really more just that they need you and they know they're the only ones. And so I'm thankful for those who make those sacrifices
getting up early, staying up late, getting themselves infected or hurt or whatever, and having to worry about your own families. You know, it's you're like a coach. The way I see it, a lot of people, you're doing something that most people aren't cut out to do. I can't do what you do, and I understand that, recognize that. So big shout out to all of those who help us in a time of need.
And before we close this out, would you like to plug your podcast with your son, the Teague's Take podcast, to our fans, and where our fans can find you guys?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. So yeah, I do known as a weekly podcast. We kind of slow down in the off season, but come August, it'll be a weekly show, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. We do a live show on YouTube. It's at Teague's Take podcast channel, where we talk, NFL and collegiate football, primarily the Cowboys and primarily Alabama, and primarily the SEC. We do have special guests on from time to time. Do that. It's just real talk, kind of like what you're doing here, man. Mm-hmm. It's unscripted. We just kind of shoot the shit and just get her after. Take for about an hour, so you can tune in to it live, or you can find all the recorded episodes either on our YouTube page, video, or on Spotify, iTunes. It's all there. You can find me on Twitter at Teague Football. That's my personal page, IG and Twitter. So y'all get in. I try to talk a little bit. Hey man, I don't know if you saw my little tweets. I spent a little bit of time with Bob Lilly and and Reggie White. This past weekend, we were in Virginia together, and some stories and things that they told me were just kind of cool, and they were humble, and just wrapped me in like I was one of them. So it was kind of cool, and so every now and again, I'll try to catch some pretty cool stuff that people can see or hear about that I get lucky enough to be a part of as well.
Wow, you gotta get some of your other former teammates on the show too.
That's right. That's right. I mix it up in the off season, so I tend to get a lot of Cowboys. I've had Darren, Woodson, Nate Newton. I mean, we've had a lot of guys on. It's my completion of my second year doing it. And then I've mixed it up where I bring on some track folks, some gymnasts, whatever, basketball players, coaches, that kind of thing. So next in line, I'm probably going to have probably Jeff Garcia back on.
Let's go. We had Jeff Garcia on our show 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is. So anyway, we have a good time. Y'all come check us out at Teague's Take Podcast. We appreciate it.
Yeah, so there you have it. That wraps up episode 1021 with former Alabama safety and NFL safety George Teague. Everyone go follow him on Instagram, Twitter. Man, he's doing big things off the field now as a head coach in high school. And now he has a podcast called Teague's Take Podcast with his son. Go check that out and go subscribe. And man, George, thank you again for joining the show. It's truly an honor. And obviously, being a fellow Cowboys fan, it's extra special for me to have you on the show today. And we would love to have you back again so you can meet the full team. But keep up the great work with your podcast and coaching. Looking forward to more content from you guys. But keep up the great work. Thank you again. And how about the Cowboys?
How about the Cowboys, baby? All right. I'll talk to you later, man. Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.